Hey, it's Ryan with the Bluffton Buzz. Thanks for joining me again today with another great special election edition. Thanks to the Greater Bluffton Chamber of Commerce as well for helping set up these interviews. Today, I am with Bill Herbkersman. He's running for District 118. Is that correct, Bill?
That's correct.
All
District
right.
118.
So let's start off with who is Bill Herbkersman? How did you get here?
Bill Herbkersman. Okay, I'm about a 42-year resident of Bluffton. Ran for the House about 23 years ago when the new House seat was created here, and won that, and have been an incumbent ever since.
Okay. So you are probably one of the only folks I've talked to that are like you're lifelong Bluffton. You were born here?
No, I wasn't born here. My kids were born here. I lived in Columbia before I moved here, and I actually lived on Hilton Head a little bit before I moved over here. So,
Okay.
um, yeah, yeah.
And then how did you get your start in politics? What made you want to get into
Well,
it?
you know, it's kind of funny or kind of ironic. I mean, I had never been in politics before. I followed it. I mean, my mom was a Kennedy Democrat, and my dad was a Republican, so I had a chance to follow it. But what had happened was we were getting kind of the short end of the stick here in Beaufort County, and I would always complain about it to some of my friends in college who were actually in the House and the Senate. And a new House seat was coming here because of the growth. And one of my buddies just said, "Why don't you quit complaining and run for it?"
Hmm.
So basically, that's what he did.
Okay. What
Yeah.
what were you doing before that?
Same thing. I'd started out here. I had bicycle stores, the cycle centers, years ago. Um, I think by the time I sold that chain of stores, it was the second largest in the Southeast, 18 stores. Then it opened up a couple restaurants, and those couple turned into about 16 restaurants. WG Shuckers was the most famous one, but we had Dog's Breath Saloon in Bluffton. Um, I was the owner of the original Agave, the original Hilton Head Brewing Company, St. Simon's Brewing Company, Columbia Brewing Company. We had Moon Me Pizza, an oyster bar, all
Wow.
that. Those were all on the promenade. Which then after that, I just really got into kind of an eco development and redevelopment.
Okay. So you are
So
an entrepreneur for sure.
I guess so. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's fair. I wanted
Yeah,
people to know what your background was.
yeah, man, I love it. I've actually never had a quote unquote real job, but I've had a lot of jobs. So I did everything from dishwash to cook or whatever it took in
Yeah.
those. And then we built the promenade back in '05 and '06, and got to see the worst of the recession. But it's really kind of it's really come around. It's the place to be right now.
No, that's cool. It was fun. We were just there yesterday doing the trick or treat with the kids. We
Yeah,
had
how
a
great is
trick or
that?
treat
Yeah.
session around there. And so, what were you complaining about to your friends that you wanted to change that got you into politics?
A couple of things. One was the red tape for businesses. I mean, there's just so much red tape in government right now. It doesn't matter if it's town government, county government, state, or federal government. There's more red tape than the people who are in business, and you're in business for yourself. The people who are in business are actually footing the bill, and sometimes it feels like we're paying for them to work for the governments to work against us,
Hmm.
and it was frustrating. The second thing was is that Beaufort County for a long time has been a performing asset. Bluffton, Hilton Head, we send up more money than we got. We're a donor district, and that had to change. We just didn't have representation up there that was going to kind of bring back the bacon. So I felt that we stood a good chance to do it.
Okay. Did you? I forget who I talked to about this, but it was very interesting just to hear. Oh, I think it was actually Logan Cunningham I was talking to about this. But how did you just jump right into I'm running, or did you join any kind of clubs or anything like that? Like, how
No,
did that work?
no, I just jumped right in. As a matter of fact, the I wasn't an established person in any party. I was a Republican, but I wasn't established in that, and they had an established candidate that I had to run against. So that was my first election. So that was the primary. So I won the primary, and then I had to run against a former Marine Corps general in the general election.
Wow.
And you talk about stepping in, going from the fire to the frying pan. This guy was dynamic, but we just we worked it out, and I ended up winning, and he ended up being a good friend. And matter of fact, both the guys that I ran against, most people that I have run against are good friends now.
That's interesting way it
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
How long ago was that? Like
That was
when?
22 years ago.
Okay, so social media really wasn't a thing just yet.
Yeah, no, I
So
mean,
how did you
cell phones weren't even a thing back then.
yeah, how did you help get your name out there? I have a marketing background as well, so I'm always just curious, like pre-internet, pre-social media, how did you spread your word and get folks to know about you? What were the methods?
I think we had a lot of folks who felt the same way down here about, number one, about the red tape, and number two, about not getting our share back here, about sending money up and being a donor district and not getting it back. When I put it out there that I was running, um, they they pulled together some folks, and we had some good fundraisers. We had some good meet and greets, and I think that first election I probably had 150 meet and greets,
Wow.
sometimes 3 or 4 a day, and our numbers were overwhelming in that.
So a lot of just meeting folks, listening to them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's, what, actually, and I'll tell you, Ryan, I learn more, and every meeting I go to, I learn more than I can bring to it, and that's
Wow.
kind of, it's kind of an interesting thing because you can, that's where I think that's where we gain experience.
Yeah. No, I mean, I used to work in radio, and I worked my way up pretty good. We were on morning shows around the country, and when you start in radio, you have to do promotions and meet people. And I
Yep,
missed that more than actually what I thought my dream job was. And that's how I ended up in the other division of a whole nother world of marketing, was always being around people and learning from them. To me, it was so much more than sitting in a studio with a bunch of goofballs trying to make people
yeah, that's
laugh.
right.
You
That's
know what
right.
I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, that's
So
right. And then,
it's
yep.
really cool to get out there. And I was just curious, pre big internet and social media, how you got your name out there. So going into more of the politics now that we get to know you, what are the things that you feel are most important to our district?
You know, I think infrastructure is huge. The growth, how to handle our growth, both locally and in the state. And the fact that we have underemployment here. Now, what's getting to be a big issue on that is also where are the people going to live who are going to work here. So we've been working on both publicly and privately on that.
Okay. So I want to talk about that because I was just speaking with Weston Newton, and he gave me a pretty good education on, and even Tom Davis helped me learn a little bit about, back in the day, people would come from different counties to come here. That was just the norm. That's where the
That's right.
workforce came from.
That's right.
Um, Now they have their own advantages to staying at home and working locally.
Yeah. Well, also too, if you think about it, back 30 years ago, 35 years ago here in the wintertime, if you saw a car that you didn't know, you're like, wow, I wonder who that is, because you
Yeah,
knew everybody. And it's still a little bit like that. It's still a small town, but it's gotten way bigger. But back then, the people coming from Hampton County and the upper reaches of Jasper, they could make it over to Hilton Head in 25 minutes because there's no traffic. So you
right.
got the traffic dynamic as well as the distance dynamic, and they do. And as the growth goes out towards Jasper County, the jobs are starting to be more prevalent out there as well.
For sure. So how do we get more folks coming here? What do you think we need to be working on?
I think we have to have open minds on that. I mean, part of it is the workforce housing. Part of it is we're the dynamics are shifting on what the workers are actually doing here. We've got as the population got older here, we there's a need for different type of employment. For example, the hospitals now. We're working with a couple of hospitals to bring for a certificate of need to bring another hospital into the Bluffton area,
Mhm.
just because the population really demands it right now, and there's definitely a need for it. So, but you got to have the nurses for that, and you got to have the technicians for that. So, it's funny you mentioned Tom Davis and Weston. Tom and Weston and I have worked pretty hard on getting funding for the tech school and also for USCB for nursing programs, so that we'll have the available workforce for that. And we've been very successful with that, by the way. And Ryan, the thing that people don't think about is a lot of these kids that are, say, going to the tech school and becoming nurses. That's a game changer for their whole family. I mean, in generations, they've never had someone who's been a professional like that and have made the kind of money that these kids are making coming out. Not just kids, but anybody is making coming out of the tech school or out of USCB. So it's really kind of a cool dynamic that it all kind of fits together.
Yeah, tell me more about that nursing program. I haven't heard about it yet. What is it about? How can people find out about it?
Yeah. So what we did is we talked with Al Panu, the chancellor out at USCB, and with the technical college of the Low Country, Mary Lee, and Richard Gow is the president of that. So we talk to them and find out exactly what they need. But we also find out what the hospitals need, and we try and match that and marry that. And so what our job is to bring the funding back for that and bring the okay to do it. And we've been very successful with doing that. And we used to have a parity issue at USCB where the kids in different parts of South Carolina were worth more than our kids down here were because they got more money in scholarships than we did. And it was just one of those things where we were kind of the stepchild. Beaufort County was kind of the stepchild. Well, we fixed that. We've got parity now. So in having parity, we can also kind of navigate what courses we need. I mean, these are desperately needed courses with the nursing program. So every single nurse that graduates from USCB and from the Technical College of the Low Country has a job waiting for them, and it's a high-paying job. That's pretty exciting.
Now, are those jobs in this area for sure?
They are, yeah. The technical schools are especially good with that, about keeping people involved in it, because they're more local families. And we're going to get at the USCB, we're going to get kids from out of state who probably want to stay, but most of them won't. But at the technical college, I mean, I'd say a majority, probably 90% of those of the graduates there are going to stay in the area. So as we're bringing in the hospitals and getting the certificates of needs done, and growing the hospitals in Hilton Head and Jasper, and now the one in Bluffton that we're working on, we're going to have the workforce to fulfill the jobs in that.
Very good. So now we're attracting people to learn, to be employees. We get them jobs here. How do we get them living here? What's that next step for that affordable housing?
It's just working on it. That's some of it's a public-private partnership. Some of it's a private, just the private industry is doing it. I mean, our hurdles are two. One is the cost of land here is so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're working around that. I mean, we can work around that as far as density and issues like that. But the biggest thing that we have to do, and as much as some of the counties and the cities try, is we've got to be able to cut through the red tape to get these things done. I mean, I've got to say, Bluffton's been pretty good about that. We're working with them on a public-private partnership on workforce housing right now, and they've been pretty good in fact, really good about cutting through the red tape on that.
Good. So now I'm going to move it on to, of the 100 small businesses you listed and other small business owners out there, right? Like, and you're still out. I mean, you're a representative, but do you still own businesses too?
Oh yeah. I still own a pretty good bit of the promenade, and also I've got a plastics company that makes that. It's kind of a neat business. It makes a device that keeps drain lines for air conditioners clean. So
that's a big need. As somebody that ends up with the repercussions of what those do, that's a big need. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
That was a need that's how we designed it, because we had such a need for it and couldn't find anything to work.
Yeah. So, I bring this up because I hear it from other business owners, other folks in the construction industry I work with. And I hate seeing such creative businesses locally like have to shut down because they can't find the workforce. So we just talked hospitals, and that is very much like a government, large entity collaboration. What are we doing for small businesses to get some of these employees? Is it, again, just having the affordable housing and they'll come, or how do we promote that?
First of all, I think it's using and utilizing the small businesses that are local on that. When you start pulling that away, anything from building homes to building schools and all that, I think if you can utilize the small businesses, they make money, and they in turn can pay their employees a little bit more. And, it's kind of that effect where they can actually live here if they're making more money. It used to be they could live in Bluffton, and then it was Jasper County, and it kind of moved out now. But I think if we keep on that track of using the local businesses here and utilizing the workforce, they'll be able to afford to live here. And I mean, maybe not directly here in the direct area, but I think in the surrounding areas. Okay. But that's been the way it's been for the past 50 years. I mean, a lot of people that worked on Hilton Head couldn't afford to live on Hilton Head.
What are some? I'm not super educated on this, but what are some ways that small businesses on a state or local level could get the advantages or tax advantages or be part of some sort of programs? Is there a source to find out more about that?
Yeah, there is. I mean, our Department of Commerce is really good. I think there's always a preference for local businesses. If there's not, there should be in the municipalities and in the county. And when you think about it, those dollars stay here, so it makes sense to have a preference for local businesses.
Yeah, no, I'm all about using as many local folks as I can
Uh,
and supporting local as much as possible.
Look, Ryan, same here. I mean, those are the people you count on. When something goes wrong, if you hire a firm from Atlanta, they're in Atlanta. You hire someone here, they're here. And that's a big difference.
No, absolutely. Something else you mentioned was people used to come from far away and the traffic wasn't bad. Now it's insane. It's pretty
Nice.
crazy. There's some just
Yeah. Yeah.
devastating accidents you see every day posted online, and you're just like, it's never ending. And I will say, I think social media amplifies everything. I know there's accidents everywhere every day, but man, does it feel like we have a lot going on in our area.
Yeah, it used to be you can get to Savannah in no time. I mean, and now forget about it. But I got to say this: working with Tom Davis and with Weston Newton and with our delegation, we've been able to bring unprecedented money back here for the infrastructure. And infrastructure is 90% of it. And as I said before, this area is a performing asset for the state. And you've got to feed a performing asset. You've got to put money into a performing asset to make sure that it still performs. So we've been doing that. We've been bringing, huge amounts of money because we kind of know what we need, but we've had open communication with the county and with the municipalities on that, and we're working pretty well together.
Okay. So you guys are bringing in a ton of money.
Yeah.
Where, and I know it just doesn't go somewhere and things immediately happen, but where have you guys been trying to take these larger amounts of money and implement them?
In the infrastructure in general, or in the infrastructure?
For now, for infrastructure, but we can go in general as well.
Yeah.
But if we're talking infrastructure and we're talking about improving things and taking money that the state's giving us or federally even, what kind of pots are they going in? What are you guys working on?
Okay, so we're working with the local C funds, local funds that build the roads locally. Also working with the state and the federal government, like on US 278, Highway 278 is a federal road. Now we've got state roads that we work on. So we try and combine those pots, and we try and, if anything that we can do for matching dollars, we do. Every dime that comes through the infrastructure bank also has to go through the Joint Bond Review Committee up in Columbia, and I'm a member of that. There's 8 of us on that. So it's kind of nice because, first of all, we understand the projects for both the infrastructure bank, which is really just a bank that funds the roads and for the state. It uses the tax dollars we get from gasoline. And then there's the Joint Bond Review Committee. The Joint Bond Review Committee is a little more interesting because we can use our leverage of being on there to make sure that we get our portion of those dollars, as opposed to just hoping that you get them. Because we can hold up a project somewhere else if our projects aren't being funded. And we're reasonable about that. But we also want to make sure that they're reasonable with us.
The idea is it helps keep it fair for everybody.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what. Sometimes it's more fair for us than others, but that's okay. I mean, every dog has his day on that one.
Yes, for sure. So, like, what's something that excites you right now, infrastructure wise, that you guys are working on?
I'm excited about the probability of the new Hilton Head Bridge.
Yeah.
On that. I mean, I know there's some issues with that, with the county and with the town, but just the ability to bring that back and have that funded, as well as I think exit 5 is a big deal too, or exit 3, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be great for economic activity down there. So we're working on those pretty hard on Highway 17, 170, the local roads. We're doing pretty well on. The C funds have helped out a lot on that. And it's the ability to kind of prioritize things. Whereas I can tell you before, things were not getting funded before. But our delegation is pretty strong. And, I got to hats off to the members of the delegation. Tom's chairman of LCI in the Senate, Weston's chairman of Judiciary. I'll be chairing LCI in the House. Shannon's chair of Education. Jeff is chair of Artificial Intelligence and Regulations. It's just a big, in fact, we have more chairmen in Beaufort County than any other 2 counties combined. So,
wow.
The juice is there. And it's not juice. I'm not saying that narcissistically. I'm saying it because we have open communication with most of the people in this county, these two counties, Beaufort and Jasper County, and we can kind of get things done now, where we haven't had that in probably 50 years.
Well, I think, I didn't take it narcissistically, but I think the way that folks should understand it is they have representatives for them in the strongest force possible in the state.
That's right. That's right. And between all of us, we get together and we talk about these priorities too. And we don't always agree. Our delegation doesn't always agree, but we always come to some form of consensus to work together and to make it happen.
Yeah. You said something that sparked my interest, and I know it's not your lane, but what are you guys doing in AI? What's that about?
Well, hey, you had to help me with this Mac,
Two,
So I
just
still
so you
have
guys know,
AOL.
Bill still has 2 AOL addresses.
That's right. That's right. So you're asking, but it's the future, and Jeff Bradley is someone who kind of has taken it upon himself to really understand that and to educate the rest of us on that. So there's going to be regulations on that, and I hate the word regulations, but on that you almost have to.
Mhm.
I mean, that is just bigger than any of us, and to be part of that discussion as a delegation is going to be pretty important.
Well, as somebody that uses AI and knows what it's capable of and can't, try to think I'm still a young guy, but I don't get half of that AI, and it could be scary. So I'm not big for regulations either. But if we're going to regulate something,
Yeah, I mean,
a
yeah,
robot with a brain is one I would be, put some reins on, put
I'm
some
with you
tracks
on
on
that
that.
100%.
Absolutely. How do folks reach out to you? Do you have an office that is just like, I talked to Nancy Mace, said, I got offices in a few spots. It's an open door policy. Come in. How does it work for Bill?
It's the same thing. Open door. My office is in the Promenade. It's number 1 Promenade. It's in the building that. So we've got a couple of real estate companies and a bank, and a charter one is the big real estate company that is in our building.
Okay.
And so I keep an office there. I'm here 2 days a week during session, and 3 days a week counting Saturdays, and then pretty much all the time when we're out of session. So um, we'll see. First of all, I probably get 200 emails a day.
Wow.
The priority is our folks. The priority is our constituents here. But what we do is just have it regular office hours, and people just drop by too. You're talking about going over to Corner Perk. I mean, I meet more people at Corner Perk, and then we grab a coffee and come to the conference room and work things out than anything else. So and I think the people here know that. The folks all from Sun City all the way through to Hilton Head and Defusky, they know that we're here. They know that we're accessible. They know we're available. And as a matter of fact, we're in the community. All of us are in the community so much that it's not uncommon to be stopped at the grocery store or at Captain Woody's or something, and someone wants to talk to you about something. So it's
That's
just
good.
part of the deal. And normally we can come together on that.
No, that's massive. And I think a lot of people focus so much on national level politics. They don't realize how important keeping in touch with your local representative is, because it actually affects you way more than the stuff you watch on the big networks.
No doubt about it, Ryan. I mean, it's just some examples. I mean, I wrote the budget, or I write the budget right now for like MUSC and for Health and Human Services, and people that have an issue with Medicaid, or even trying to get their kid into MUSC or into one of the hospitals or something. We've been very successful with that. We've been very successful with garnering up the ability to help kids get into USC from down here. Maybe their grades aren't exactly right, but they've got the drive and they've got the intuitiveness to get in. So we try and help them as much as we can. It's all about helping the local person. And I think that on the state level is so valuable for the folks for our local folks.
I fully agree with that. I got a couple questions from folks on Facebook. I wanted to ask you two of them, because one I hear a lot, believe it or not. Especially, I've lived in Florida for a little bit, so I come from a state income tax free state, and I've experienced the awesomeness of some extra cash in your pocket, especially before all this inflation. Do you see this girl Sarah? She says her and her husband go back and forth. He wants to move back to Virginia. She loves it here. Not to say he doesn't, but he's like, it was almost cheaper up there, and we came down here to save money.
Yeah.
A lot of things happened at once. Do you see a way that we could lower our income tax or end up like a Florida where we are tax free in state
No,
income tax?
we've actually got a critical path on that. We've lowered it about quarter of a percent for the past. We doubled it last year, but we're lowering it every year. But also, you got to remember that, like South Carolina, we have no tax on food and we have no tax on pharmaceuticals. So, we're doing some things. I mean, I think in Florida, there's still a food tax,
Okay.
So we're doing things incrementally on that. But I do see a point in time when we are tax free, when we have state income tax, we'll be income tax free. So
I'll take it. I'll take
yeah.
it.
Hey, me and you both.
You're saying I have a chance.
Always a chance.
No, I like that. Another one that I did this with Krista Flanders last year. I don't know if you know the name or not.
I do.
Okay, good. She's a huge advocate in the rehab community.
Yep.
And something I talked to Dan Wood about last year was about Chris's question specifically was like, we need more Narcan on the streets. We need more, representation of that. We need people to know more about this stuff. Right. And Dan graciously called her immediately. Like, I don't think he left his we left the parking lot and he was calling her, and he got the chief of police involved, and they got thousands of Narcan distributed and education going. I love that. So for her to ask another question again on this round, I'm taking advantage of it because it can only help people. She says, our area has no detox or affordable inpatient treatment for substance abuse. With the fentanyl epidemic at an all-time high, is there a way to get detox in our community? Because you have to drive over 2 hours with no guarantee that you can even get treatment. Is there a way we can start working on that?
Yeah, we are working on that. And first of all, I want to thank Krista for what she posts, because that's hard to post, and then she's done a wonderful job with it. And I think, personal experience is probably the best thing that you can put out there, and she's done that. And I appreciate that. We made last year and the year before, we made it the year of mental health, and part of that is the ability to start funding rehab. Now we've got to have the locations for it, we've got to have the rehab centers built into these hospitals.
Yeah.
So the hospitals don't necessarily look at funding that themselves, and we've got to help fund that. And I'll tell you what, for every dollar we spend on that, we save money on that, because it's been such a epidemic on, especially to our younger folks.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've got to be cognizant of. We got to look at, but we're past the looking stage right now. We know we need it. So now it's just the ability to do that. And being the chairman of Health and Human Services for so long, we've been able to actually put money into that.
Without going too far into it, because I don't want to put you in a corner, but the way you mentioned it, why don't hospitals want to deal with it? Why don't they want to fund it? And just to finish my thought, especially in the healthcare system, whether I agree or disagree with it, it is such a moneymaker. Why wouldn't there be a benefit to all parties involved?
I think it's going to boil down to the dollar, because I think a lot of times we have insurance companies that don't want to pay it. And so, it's not just a rich kid disease anymore. It affects everybody, and it probably affects every family in some way.
Absolutely.
Whether it be alcoholism or drug abuse. So the ability to maybe expand that in the Medicaid realm, I think is going to be important. But also too, the thing we have to be very, very, very aware of is that we don't have the workers for that either. And so, for us to be able to, we worked with DHEC, which is now split up, but the medical side of DHEC, we can again have nurses that can do that. We can train them specifically for that, and they have the jobs when they get out. So, it's kind of like a 3-prong approach on that. I mean, the money, the facilities, and also the workers that can do it.
Oh, here, I'm going to add a 4th prong. Here's what we're going to do, Bill. We're going to build the hospital that has the treatment, that trains the people, and then we can house them right there too. All in one shot.
Not a bad idea.
My bright idea of the year right there. You can run with it. Let's see. I got one more question for you. As you can see, I wear this hoodie a lot. It says "Built with Integrity." That's our tagline at Bluffton Builders. And I at first I liked it because it just sounded good, and it was true. My dad is built with integrity. He started this company, and we build some really cool structures that are really well engineered. I'll put it that way. So the way the codes go around here, very engineered. So that being said, I've started actually like living my life through Built with Integrity. I'm making decisions, I'm hiring, I'm firing with integrity, right? How is
Yeah.
Bill built with integrity?
I think just having well, first of all, I came from a large family. I had 7 brothers, and so I mean, we got the integrity beat into us if we didn't have it. So but just kidding on that. But you know, I mean, in order to survive now, and this as a independent business owner, you've got to have integrity because with social media, word gets out so fast on, if you're cutting corners or, cheapening things or just not doing your job or not showing up. That's really important. Showing up, just not showing up. I think, people know it and they know it pretty quick. So I think the integrity is almost part of it's got to be part of the equation on that.
Cool. Do you have
Yeah.
anything else for the people, Bill?
No, I think it's just the fact that I, I think as a delegation, I like to tout that a little bit because we've got such talent on the delegation. I mean, way more than I've got. So, but it's so good to work with the people that we're working with right now and being able to get things done. And we cross party lines. It doesn't. I mean, the party lines don't matter. What we're doing affects the community as a whole. So we're doing it, and we're doing it with integrity. And
Cool.
so it's been a real pleasure to do, and it's been an honor to be able to do that and to be able to do what we've been doing. So that's really all I got.
Very good. Bill Herbkersman, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again to the Greater Bluffton Chamber of Commerce for helping us get these interviews lined up. It's been awesome. Bill, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Ryan.
Take care.
All right, see ya.